Please, sir, what is your confession all about?
I started dating my wife's best friend and she revealed to me the man who dated my wife.
You mean, you dated your wife's best friend?
Yes, I did.
If you must date a woman, must it be your wife's own best friend? Any reason for your action, or you just fell to emotion?
She was seductive in her attitude. I also wanted to win her in order to know some hidden side of my wife's life through her.
Were you originally suspicious of your wife?
Not at all.
Then why were you eager to know her hidden side, if her unhidden side was okay?
If my wife's friend, in fact, best friend, could be that careless, that unrestrained in her interactions with men, and that seductive, and still my wife found nothing wrong with that, never complained about any conduct of her best friend, then is my wife of the same stuff. Apart from this, I wanted to have something to hold against her in case she at any time discovered some of my exploits with women.
You mean your wife's best friend was not your first outing with women outside your home?
You seem to be correct.
Your answer sounded diplomatic. Please, am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you. Can we now hear your confession?
A very close friend of my wife was an extrovert to the extreme. Once she was in any environment, everybody would know that she was there. The way she played with women was the same way she played with men. Anytime she came to our house, she would crack jokes and punch my wife, my male friends and myself alike. I noticed that my wife never criticized the way she related with men even if they were strangers. Hence, inside me I wondered when my wife was outside our house if she could relate unrestrainedly with men in the same manner. They say birds of the same feather fly together.
Please, are you suggesting that when a woman relates freely with men, it amounts to being flirtatious?
No, that is not what I am suggesting, but one's carriage, that body language when interacting with men can speak more eloquently than spoken words. If you were to observe what I am talking about, you would not hold a contrary view.
Okay, please continue with your confession.
One day I decided to test the woman's level of discipline, to know if she allowed her familiarity with men to go beyond the surface.
Please, we would like to know the method you used in testing her discipline.
When she visited our house one of those days and touched the frontal part of my trousers, I jokingly told her to be careful so that she would not awaken a sleeping African python. She replied and said if the African python wanted to awaken, let it do, and that there was an African Ocean where the African python would be drowned. I asked where the African Ocean is situated. She pointed at the lower portion of her body. Her gesture was suggestive. Later we went beyond the stage of testing the waters and had an affair.
Sir, was your wife in the house while you did all that with her best friend?
No, my wife traveled out of station.
Did your wife's friend know that your wife traveled before coming to your house?
Yes, she knew that my wife traveled and still visited me and was touching me inappropriately with the intention of waking up the sleeping African python.
Please, sir, you can continue with the confession.
Immediately after our first intimate affair, I read her psychology and felt it was an appropriate moment to pull her legs.
What was it that made her psychology under that moment very appropriate to pull her legs?
There were threefold elements in her psychology. First, she was afraid of anyone catching us in the act. Secondly, she had a sense of satisfaction having tested a new man, and finally, she had a sense of guilt because the new man tested was her best friend's husband.
Please, sir, continue with what happened next.
What happened next was that I pulled her legs by telling her that if my wife knew that she could date another man, that my wife would have distanced herself from her. That my wife hated any woman who could indulge in extramarital affairs. At this point, my wife's friend got angry and told me to stop deceiving myself. She said it might take me probably another lifetime to understand my seemingly innocent and quiet wife, unless someone very close to her reveals something about her to me. She promised to assist me to see something and know my wife better. 2 weeks later, she called and told me when and where to go and stay if I wanted to know my wife better. I went with a taxi and parked at a hidden spot. After some time, one of my close male friends drove to a place and parked. Shortly after that, my wife appeared and joined him in his car, and they drove away. The taxi I hired traced him to a small guest house located in a very remote part of the city. I immediately called in two close relations of ours, one from my side and the other from my wife's side. We went into the guest house and sat at an obscure corner and ordered drinks and some edibles, while we waited for them to come out.